Thank you so much for joining me tonight for Tune In Tuesday. My name is Sharon Rogers and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine. And tonight I'm going to be playing with the Abundant Beauty Decorative Masks from Stampin' Up! Now just a little heads up, as I was filming this last night, these masks were projected to come back in stock this week, which usually means Monday, which is right now when I'm filming this. However, it looks like sometime during the day they pushed that back a week, and so they will not be available until next week. So keep an eye out for those. More on that a little bit later, but let's get started creating with these beautiful decorative masks that span a number of seasons. For my first project, which is the last one I'm filming, I'm going to use my Countryside Corners dies. These are just a very unique octagonal shape, just something different. Bringing in a piece of Very Vanilla and my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I recently had somebody say, I wish they had a shorter name for that. You could just call it the Boss. The other one, the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, is the Baby Boss. I'll just run this through. Oops, sorry, hit the phone. Here we go. Oftentimes, I like to die cut after I've stamped or put the image on. But because this is going to be a project that's mailed to you, I'm going to show you that you can do it before. Now we need to bring in our masks, which I've already labeled from a previous project. So I will need 1, 2, 3, and 4. I am not going to use all 3 sunflowers on this one. I'm just going to use this one right here. We're going to bring in a blending brush. Now this is one of the small blending brushes. They come in 2 different sizes. This is my yellow currently. Most of them probably could benefit from some cleaning. I've used a lot of different colors during this series, and so this is my yellow one. I'm going to start with some crushed curry. Now I want to be careful and not get some of those other flowers accidentally started. So here's how I do that. I take a piece of painter's tape and I will just mask off this section and the other section as well. That will help me to just keep my ink where I want it to be. Let me orient this. I think that's pretty good. And once you ink up, you want to bring in a little piece of scratch paper. I'm going to put a light shade down here. And then I'm going to concentrate a little bit more in the center. So the outer petals are darker than the inner petals. Reverse. The outer is lighter than the inner. Now if I take just a little peek, I'm going to hold my thumb there, take a little peek. I think I need that darker still. I'm going to ink up a little bit more. Some ink around the outside, and then a lot more on the inside. And that difference in shading really helps bring that sunflower to life. Oh yeah, that's good. So we are done with number 1. we'll bring in number 2. Now for number 2, I'll be using early espresso. Here it is. Now I used the medium flour, so I will use the medium, and these are spaced far enough apart so that I don't need to really worry about getting anything there. You know, I'm not going to accidentally ink those. I'm going to put a fairly decent layer on here. Okay, here we go. Then I will bring in my number 4. Let's see, that's this one right here. And here's the center. Go ahead and put that in there. And notice the outside ring here, it doesn't line up perfectly, but that's to give the illusion that these little dots in here are popping off a little bit more. So just line it up. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to add a little bit more concentrated early espresso. And so you can see the difference there. All right. And there is my sunflower. Pretty quick and easy. We can add a leaf if we want to. Now the thing with this, and if we want to get a leaf so that it appears to be coming out from underneath the sunflower, what we need to do is create a mask. I'm going to show you really quickly how to do that. I'm going to bring in some of my Stampin' Up! Masking paper. And here we go. So with the masking paper, this you'll be able to see a bit of a line in here where you can tear off that backing. It's the side that you can't tear it off from that you want to stamp or, in this case, use a stencil on. I'm going to bring back my little sunflower in here. Just put a little bit of an outline. I don't need it real strong. Once I have this on my masking paper, I am going to cut pretty close to these petals. Time to fast forward. All right, now you may have noticed that I had brought in my stencil because I wanted to see, I know where I want to put my flower, and that, I mean my leaf, and that's down around here. So I really only needed to be able to match this up for certain portions of it. I didn't need to cut the whole thing. So that saves you a little bit of time for those of you who don't like fussy cutting. But remember, the wonderful thing about this masking paper is, if I can get the back off it, is that you can use it over and over and over again. I would keep this in with my stencils. All right, let's see if we can line these up. Put this on here. All right, so I've got those on there. Now let's go ahead and bring in our leaf. And I'm going to use, I think I'm going to just use this one right here. And I'll bring in my Mossy Meadow. Such a lovely fall green. And we'll just, this is one of the larger ones, but of course you could have used a smaller one. Now, looks like I got it on my flower, right? But remember, we protected that with the masking paper. So when I gently remove this masking paper, and you do want to be gentle so that you're not ripping any cardstock or the mask itself, especially the first time when it's got the most tack. There, now we have the leaf coming from behind that sunflower. We'll just put the mask away. And now we need a sentiment. I will bring in, I have a new team member. So right now, Stampin' Up! Has a couple of specials on as I'm filming this. And so this is going to air on Tuesday, the 10th. And there's free shipping going on right now for orders of $75 or more. But there is also a special join offer. So you can get a starter kit deal, and there are two deals. You can get 35% off the $99 normal price, which puts it at $64.35. And you can get $125 worth of merchandise for that $64.35. Free shipping. Because the kits, the starter kits are always free shipping. And then you could, if you didn't want to use that and you wanted more product because your wish list is very long, you could use the second option for the starter kit, which is get 35% more. And why is the 35 a big deal? Because 35 is representative of Stampin' Up's 35th anniversary, 35 years of being in business. And so they wanted to pass that along and celebrate and have you celebrate with us. So that 35% more means you could get, instead of $125 worth of merchandise, you could get 35% more, or $168.75 worth of merchandise for the normal starter kit price of $99, free shipping. So that is going on all of October 2023. So you have some choices, whether it's just free shipping from the 9th to the 11th, or it's shipping, its starter kit deal, which is all of October. Some great options for you. So now I'm going to put this right on here. And this to me is pretty flat. So I'm going to bring in a little folder. And specifically, I'm going to bring in my Timber 3D embossing folder. Has a little wood grain look, and I want my wood grain to be running vertically on my card. I'll put this in here. As a reminder, or new information for those of you who may not use embossing folders, you want to put the folded edge into your machine first. And your plates are a little bit different. So you only need the number 1 plate, your embossing folder with cardstock in it with the fold going through first, and then a number 4 plate. And that's for the 3D embossing folders, which are extra thick. Now you've got a pretty wood grain texture on there. So let's bring in our card base. Now, it's always a choice. Which are we going to elevate with dimensionals? I think for me, it's going to be this one. We're going to just glue this down. Okay. And we need some dimensionals for the back of this piece. Here. All right. And if it's a long enough piece like this one, I like to put one in the middle as well to give that some support. And let's see, what if we put this on a little bit of an angle? Yeah. You know what? I have some pretty pecan ribbon in here. Let's go ahead and see what we can do here. If I put this sort of like this, I'm not adhering anything down yet, I'm just playing. That picks that up a little bit. Yeah, I think I like that. I'm going to add a little bit of glue here. Remember, glue is generally not ribbon's best friend. However, this is going to be covered up in the middle. So I'm perfectly fine with using glue to adhere it. Probably need to trim these ends just a tad to make them prettier and shorter. My scissors need some sharpening. I recently had somebody ask me where I take mine to get sharpened, and I take them right to my house. I bought this at, I don't know, Walmart years ago. Just a couple of those in there, and it sharpens it right up. Let's put this right over the top. So there we have that cute little card. And how about some embellishments? What would look good on here? I think these little brass butterflies would look fantastic, don't you? Let's put some down here. Ah, I just stabbed myself. Careful when you're putting on the cover. Watch what you're doing. Don't look ahead at the next step. Eek. So let's see. We can put one right down here. And we can put one maybe right. Remember, we want a triangle of sorts going on. And so maybe put another one right here. All right, and there is our card. The inside is nice and light. I'm going to write a personal note. So I think I didn't finish that story. So anyway, someone at my last event realized what a great deal the starter kit is, and so she joined. And so I will be sending this card out to Anne to welcome her to my team. And there is our first card of the Abundant Beauty Decorative Masks. One of the wonderful things I love about Stampin' Up, I almost said it wrong, right? is that there's just great sharing of ideas. And this idea that I'm about to share with you came from a fellow demonstrator, Stella McKay. Now, Stella's a top demonstrator for Stampin' Up, and she really posts a lot of things for other demonstrators as well, helpful graphics, etc. But I saw this card that she created using the Abundant Beauty masks, and I had to recreate it. And that's really what I hope that you do as well when you are, watching my videos. I hope you fall in love with something enough to make something, if not exactly the same, something similar. Now take my, I should put a little bit of tape here underneath just to kind of tack it down in place. Probably a glue dot would be a better option, but that's what we're going to use. We'll put this herringbone mask is one of the background masks that comes in here. take just a little bit of time to make sure it's kind of straight on here. It looks like I gotta shift it over a little bit. That looks pretty good. I'll tack that down so it doesn't move. Now I'm bringing in Calypso Coral, and that's going on top of my Petal Pink mask. I'm just gonna lightly add some with a blending brush, trying to get fairly even pressure over everything. All right, now if I take a peek, I can see how well I did and if there's any other areas that I need to attend to. So that is pretty light on there. I think I need to go a little bit darker. Take a moment to line things up. And if you don't go dark enough, you can see that it's a little bit hard to line it up, but that's pretty good, I think. I'm gonna add a little bit more. It's always easier to add more later than take away, because you can't take away on paper. Better to start light. And it doesn't have to be totally even, but you don't want it glaringly not. Now see, that looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna call that good. To rinse this off, just head to the sink. With these 4 masks that make up the sunflower, it's going to be very easy to create the different portions of the sunflower. They are numbered, and you'll notice these little notches, and that's where the numbers are, but they are very hard to see. So I decided I was going to take a little Sharpie and write them on myself. So the 1 is the sunflower itself. The 2 are the leaves. The 3 are parts of the insides of the flower. And the 4 is the, hold on. I think I got those wrong. I think I mixed them up out of the package. I did. So let me see. Now, it's Sharpie, right? So you think it doesn't come off, except that it will if you use magic. And what is the magic? I'm going to bring in, now that's alcohol based, right? So if I bring in my color lifter, kind of takes that right off there. Look at that. All right. Crisis averted. So see, this is why, because it's really hard to see these numbers, especially if your eyes are not great. And you want to get them right. Although these 2 are hard to mix up. You kind of know that this is the base and this is the detail on top. So it makes sense that that's 4. So there we go. We have our sheets numbered. Now some of you are not going to like this next thing because we are going to fussy cut in the end. But first, let's lay down the flowers. So this mask is much bigger than my scrap piece of basic white. So I don't really have to worry about protecting over the edges, protecting my surface. I'm not going to get anywhere near those edges. But I will tape this to the surface so things don't move. And I will use my hand to hold it as well. I'm going to begin with Calypso Coral. And I always dab off first. And we're going to give an overall wash. Just nice circular motions. I'm just laying down some color there. And because of the way the blending brush works, you get a natural shading along one edge if you just maintain the same circular motion all the way through. Now I'm going to take a slightly different color, a little bit darker color, and I'm going to add some Cajun Craze. And that Cajun Craze is going to just go a little bit more towards the center of each flower. And I'm using the same brush because this is a darker color. It's going to be fine. I'm going to go not quite all the way around or right to the edges of my petals. And when you get into smaller areas, you might even want to use the tip of it. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to bring in some cherry cobbler, which is darker still. You could be using sponge daubers as well. I'll show that in a little bit. But just really towards the center here. So my flowers are a little bit darker in the center. Now if I lift this up, you can see what I'm getting for an effect. Isn't that pretty? If it's not quite dark enough, you can go ahead and do it a little bit more. However, if you recall, we've used 3 colors on this brush. So what you want to do is get off the darkest color that you used if you want to go back. You want to rub off as much as possible onto your scrap paper. You can also use a microfiber cloth. You don't want to get it wet because you're going to have to wait till it dries in order to use it. Well, let's just show you that all is not lost if you didn't get the right depth of color first. You can just keep adding some more. I think you can see how one edge of it seems to color the leaf, which is really cool and makes for a nice dimension on those leaves, on those petals. Petals, leaves, you know what I'm talking about, right? All right, go back and add a little bit more Cajun Craze. So we're going to go for a rich, deep color here. A little bit more towards the center, ignoring a little bit of the edges. Okay, and then a little bit more of the cherry cobbler, just really around the center. All right, I think that's good. Let's take this off and see what we have. Ooh, very pretty autumn colored sunflowers. Now I know this is not a typical sunflower. Well, it's not the typical one you see in pictures, but these ones do exist. I've seen them. I'm not sure what the name is. Maybe I'll try to Google it and put it in the comments if I can find it. All right, now we're going to take mask number 3, because 2 is the leaves, so we don't want that one. So we're going to take mask number 3, and those are for the centers. We're going to position those as best we can. And I'm going to use, I think, let's bring in some early espresso. It's a pretty rich brown. Let's see, I have a clean mini brush here. These are small, so this is gonna work well, I think. I said clean, and you probably saw some color on it. They will stain a little bit, that's all right. I'm just gonna bring in a nice little piece here. Just add some color in there. Stella actually used black for this step, but black was a little too bold for me, I thought. So now you need to decide where these go. They don't align perfectly, so don't play too long. Yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty good right there. And we're going to add a little bit more detail. Going a little bit darker here. Maybe I'll go around the other way too. Each one. Let's take a peek. Oh yeah, there we go. And there are our sunflowers. Now to fussy cut them. You don't really want to watch me fussy cut, right? They're not hard because the petals are, you know, it's just a cut in from each side. You don't have to be exact. You do want to keep a little bit of a white border because you can see the white in between the petals here. So you want to keep that on the outside as well. Time to cut away and come back with the finished product. Okay, all fussy cut, so we'll set these aside. Now we need to turn our attention to mask number 2, which is for the leaves. I'm not sure why this wasn't number 4 and then the 3 and 4 were the 2 and 3 since they go with the first one, but it's not. Now we're gonna need 2 big leaves. Now, because I'm not gonna use different colors here. I'm just gonna use one color, Mossy Meadow. I'm not gonna bother with the tape. And I'm gonna get my leaves quite dark. Let's hold it on this end. And there's one leaf, one large leaf, and you can see the variation in color just on the way that I put this on here. So that circular motion naturally lends itself to some shading, I think. Then let's go ahead and get one of the little leaves. Let's go with, I don't know, this one, I guess, the smallest one. That'll be the fastest to fussy cut, right? All right. I'll time myself with this one too. The flowers were about 5 minutes for all 3 total. And let's see how long these will be. I'll be right back. Okay, a minute and a half later, I'm done. Let's bring in our piece here, and we're going to arrange some flowers a little bit. So let's see, how do I want my, which way is up? That's kind of up, I guess. Do something like this. Oh, maybe we turn it. I think that's the top there. So we have something like that. And then just watch how the addition of the green makes it come alive. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Stella, really amazing. Really amazing. Maybe I can go by how these things, so how these things are, they kind of, that's up sort of, I guess. And then we just need a sentiment to go in here. So let's take, oh, we have a nice little scrap of sentiment right here. Let's see what we can do. I think Mossy Meadow would be good to stamp that in. I'm going to get out my Charming Sentiments because many of you know that I am getting ready for November by creating enough cards so that I can send a thank you or grateful card each day of the month. I'm going to get out this Beyond Grateful sentiment. If I can read it upside down. I'm just going to have to, oh, there's Beyond Grateful right there. It's getting later. It's about 10 o'clock when I'm filming this, and my eyes have had it for the day. Let's go ahead and we'll stamp this on a piece of basic white, and this is a little bit too wide, I think. I don't want it too much wider than the sentiment. So if I measure my sentiment, it's about an inch, a little bit less than an inch. So I'm going to make this an inch and an eighth, I guess. Let's go with an inch. If it's too narrow, we'll use something else. Get my Mossy Meadow open. Beyond Grateful. Oh yeah, this will work. I think I might flag the end. Is that crooked? Yes, it's crooked. Let me get my head over this a little bit more. There we go. Now, if you watched World Card Making Day, or the Stampin' Up event, they talked about cutting down the middle. They really talked about measuring and a lot more than I would do. But I eyeball the middle, and then you cut right to that point, and you'll have ends that are even, theoretically. So there we go. And we can cut off some of this. I'm not sure how much I want to cut off though. Let's arrange this first. It's got to go over a little bit more, I think. It's okay if this flag sticks out a little bit, but what I think I'm going to do is come in here and just trim it so it's not quite as much of an angle. There we go. And then it's not going to stick out as much. So we can have something that looks like that. Yep, that's gonna do it nicely. All right, so let's mount some of these pieces here. So I want this big one to be popped up for sure. So that means I don't want this one to be popped up. And go ahead and just put that down there the way it is. And this one, now I could pop up on a couple dimensionals so that this one's up on 1 and this one's up on 2. However, I don't think I want to do that. I think I'll just have this on the ground floor, if you will. Let's figure out where we want to put it here. Something like that, I think. Now, I just put it in the center because I want to be able to sneak these leaves in. So we'll worry about the leaves in a second, but I want that to come down. So we'll stick this underneath the saying and the leaf. That. And this is going to go up on dimensionals. Get those out. I simply adore this card. The colors, the layout, just how everything pops. So pretty. Let's move my leaves out of the way. I'm going to bring this down just a hair. Don't want the leaf to catch yet. We're going to put these leaves in, and we need to put in our sentiment too. There we go. I don't want to cover up the grateful. Oh, which is the right side? Oh, yeah. All right. Sticking out a little bit, I think, because I need to trim this. There we go. Yeah, right there. Okay. And then we'll add in these leaves. And it'll be almost done. We just need to put it on a base. Here we go. Here we go. And, you know, the nice little touch that Stella had was she added some of those brass butterflies. I think she added one. I might add 3. Oh, I guess she did add 3. I typically only do odd numbers, and my odd number is really 3 generally that I stick with. So this looks like a new package of my brass butterflies. It's past butterfly season here in Maine, I think, but it's all right. You can always still use butterflies, right? Let's go here, and let's take a little one, and we'll go up here. Let's see, we turn it, because the butterflies are flying every which way. And oh, let's use a bigger one over here so he gets noticed on the flower. All right. Now let's get out a card base. What card base color should we use? I think either we go with the Early Espresso or we go with the Mossy Meadow. I think I'm going to go with the Early Espresso to kind of tie it all in. All right, I've got my Early Espresso card base. I did confirm that's the one I want to use because it's pretty much disappears behind the card. It's not much bigger than the card anyway. Because I started with a piece that was just 1/8 of an inch smaller than a regular card front. So there we go. Oh, so pretty, isn't it? And it really does have a fall feel to it. Now I just need to put something on the inside. Now I could go ahead and take a piece of Petal Pink and put that inside. That would make a unique color inside. I think, though, what we need to do, if we do that, is we need to come in with our stencils and put a little sunflower down there. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to use this little guy, though. So I'll start with a light touch on the outside and go a little bit stronger all the way to the center. So light touch and then stronger in the center. There we go. Pretty. And we'll have to bring in our center. So here's 4. Here's 3, and we want the little one. So let's bring in the little one first. And if you ever forget, like which ones, because these holes, I mean, this one is the medium hole and that's a small one, but these notches are all in the same position on all of the cards. So that will help, I think. So you can see that the notches up here, largest, medium, small, largest, medium, small. And we'll bring in our early espresso. And remember, we just wanted it light in here. And then we're going to go over and get it darker with this one. I don't know if I've got enough ink here or not. Yep, that works fine. All right, when I was testing and trying to pick up, it did come through a little bit, but that's going to be covered up with writing. Nobody will ever know except for you guys, and you won't tell my secrets, will you? And of course, you could create a matching envelope as well using the same process. So there's a little bit of a different inside of a card, but Petal Pink is certainly light enough so that you can write on it. Thank you, Stella. I hope not only I am copying this, but so many people. If you would like the class kit that will allow you to create 2 of each of tonight's cards, simply place an order of $40 or more in my online store. Now, normally I have a deadline of Sunday following my Tune In Tuesday class, but because of the masks being unavailable for order until next week, I'm going to extend that until Wednesday, October 25th. You must use the ordering code that is linked in the description of this video. Now, if you want to take advantage of Stampin' Up's free shipping that is going on through this Wednesday, October 11th, then I would suggest not waiting and maybe ordering those masks a little bit later. But if you place your order, again, using that link that is in the description of this video, I will send you out that class kit. And if your order is $60 or more, I will include that class kit. And of course the tutorial, which the PDF tutorial has all the measurements and directions written as well. I will also throw in a package of embellishments. I can't tell you what those embellishments are going to be. The stock of embellishments at Stampin' Up is going in and out, and so I'm going to use what I have on hand, and I have all sorts of different ones on hand that I can throw in for you. But you'll love the embellishments. All our embellishments are great. So again, class kit is free with a purchase of $40 in my online store. Class kit plus a package of embellishments is free with your purchase of $60 or more in my online store. All right, let's get back to creating with these masks. One of the other masks is a leaf mask, which is perfect for fall, of course. And typically you probably would be thinking, oh, let's use Very Vanilla for a base, but I'm going to use a piece of crumb cake. It's a little bit darker than usually stamp on, but I think it'll work fine with our fall colors. I'm going to lay the mask over the top. And really, I'm going to tape this down a little bit, just in the center. Just get a little tacky. You can use a glue dot or something. And let's find another end. Here's the end. Just tape the mask in place. Arrange it how you'd like it. You can use a full mask here, or you can use just a portion of it. I would say that this mask, if you want the leaves to go off the edges, then you want to cut a piece that is probably Ooh, I would say no more than, so this one is 4 inches wide, probably no more than 3.5 inches wide, just because there is a strip here where it does stay contained, but it does not bother me one bit. I'm going to bring in a couple of different colors. I'm going to start with crushed curry, and I'll be using sponge daubers, and I just have a bunch of them, and I mark them all so I don't have to clean them. And we're just going to color in different places. I am not respecting what kind of leaf gets what color, although I probably will be a little bit heavier on the oak leaves. I just want to make sure that there's color randomly all over here. We'll come back in with another color, Cajun Craze. Yep, Cajun Craze. And do the same thing. So we're just adding various fall colors here in different spots. You want to make sure you're going up and down and not swiping too much that way. You don't want to eat up your sponge dauber. This is going to give us multicolored leaves because I'm stamping in multiple colors over different areas. And of course we need our cherry cobbler. Ooh, that's a juicy one. And then finally, I always like to leave a little bit of green. Let's bring in Mossy Meadow. Yeah, let's bring in Mossy Meadow, I guess. Oh no, I got out the old olive dauber. Let's use old olive then. How about that? I can no longer see where the spots are and where they're not. Let's take a peek underneath. Gonna pick up one corner here and see, oh, and I can see that there are lots of places where I need a little bit more color. So we'll very carefully lay it down, make sure that it's lined back up, which it is. Let's go ahead and swipe in some more color. Just in a bunch of different places. If you're finding that you're getting a little bit of ink on there, you don't want quite so much, you can do this. You don't want to swipe it because you don't want to swipe the ink that's on the plastic onto your project. Let's go ahead and bring in some more cherry cobbler. That was a nice strong gold color. Let's take a little look-see. And so there we have some really pretty autumn leaves. The tones are a little muted, and that is because we're on crumb cake, but I think it just adds to the rustic nature of that a little bit more. To clean this, we'll just run it under the tap. All right, now what to do with this? I think we should bring in some copper clay ribbon, because even though we didn't use copper clay, Cajun Craze is very similar, and the crumb cake toned it down a little bit to bring it almost into the copper clay family. We're going to be using a little bit of this ribbon. All right, I'm going to get out a new set of dies that I have, and these are called the Basic Borders dies, and they make fun little edges on your cards. This actually looks like clouds, doesn't it? So you could use that as a stencil. You could cut out a piece of cardstock or just even paper and use this to stencil around to make clouds. And then it comes with this one and that curved edge, and then this one, which is what we're going to use right now. I have a piece of copper clay cardstock. But before I do that, I'm going to do this one. And we're just going to trim down this edge. Now, I like to have it somewhat centered, so it might have been a good choice to use grid paper here to find that center. But I'm just eyeballing it. My ends I see are about the same distance here, and they hang off about the same distance. So I think that's really pretty good. If you want to be more precise, you can. I don't. And then what this does also, it puts a nice little, I don't know if you can see it, a little stitched edge along there. It will be a little bit more obvious on this next one that I do. I'm going to do the same thing, except with this copper clay piece. I don't have to be quite as exact around where the center is with this one, because I'm going to move it around. Plus it is, it's not quite the same width as the other one. I could probably cut them together, but I really want that stitching to show up very well, so I'm cutting them apart separately. If you do cut these together in one pass, you would want to have the one where you want the stitching more pronounced to be on the top, closest to the die. So now what you can see I get is I can put these two together. Let me bring in a piece of this white so that you can see my background's almost copper clay in color. You have that fun little edge there. And then I can trim off the top as well. So let's trim a little bit off the top, just because, why not? Now really, if I were doing this again, I would probably start with a card that is that full length. It's 5.5, but this was only 5.25. I'm going to adhere that together. I really decided to let this project be, ooh, don't do as I say. Don't talk when you're doing this. I wanted this to be a little bit organic as I was creating it, because it just shows you a little bit of the process I go through. Not everything is successful like this. What I would do is position that right there so I get it the way I want it. I can trim off those edges. I want to get that nicely adhered first. And then we're going to adhere this to a card base. Now, what color card base should we use? We could use crumb cake again. Let's see what that's going to look like. So if I have crumb cake on crumb cake, ooh, that's nice. I like that. Just trim off this edge just by flipping it over and making a nice little straight cut. For this side, I'd probably come over here so I can see the edge. I'm not cutting off the edge. And we need a little bit more glue because I covered up the other glue. put this right on the card front here. And that is an interesting little look, I think. It almost looks like an envelope, doesn't it? But there is my card base. We just need to embellish this a little bit. All right, I'm going to keep this pretty simple. Bring in my Cajun Craze again. I'm going to stamp from the stamp set something fancy, which has coordinating dies. You could just use a rectangle or something, but I'm going to use the smaller die that's right here. But you can see it has some tag dies, which are great for Christmas. A little hexagon and some other fancier dies. This is a cling stamp, so that means I need to stamp first and then die cut. Otherwise, I risk the chance of not getting the stamp right where I want it to go. Let's bring in my die. Just hold it with a bit of washi tape. Bring back my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Plates 1, 2, and 3. My cardstock and die, and then another 3 plate. Notice I put it on an angle. That's why you didn't hear a big thump when it went through. It went through very easily. I'll be careful in removing my washi tape so I don't rip the cardstock. So I have just this, but we need to set this off a bit. We will use some dimensionals, but I think if we use a scrap piece of this, that adds just a little bit of fun to it. Yeah. I wonder if this ribbon frays. Let's see. If I make a straight cut, ooh, I can pull off some of these edges, and it gives just this fun little frayed look. So yes, this does fray. Let's trim it a little bit to make it a little bit neater. And I lost my piece here. So we'll probably want to cut it right here and fray some edges here. Just a fun, different look. Lightens up and softens those ends a bit. So we can do that right there. Yep, that'll do it. Need to adhere the ribbon. Now I typically don't recommend adhering ribbon with glue because the glue will show through and it will kind of disfigure or discolor the ribbon. And I can see that there's a little bit of dark right here coming through, and that won't really disappear. However, we're going to have something over on the top of this, so it's not going to matter. Bring in some dimensionals. And I try to stay away from where the ribbon is, which is going right through the center, because I want this to be adhered to the card. All right, this one's kind of close, but it'll be all right. There we go. And bring in some embellishments. It's always more fun with embellishments. Let's see, what do I have here that will work? I have some in-color dots somewhere, although I think I'm running out. Oh, no, I have some. Here we go. These are the in-color dots. You know what else would look nice? The neutrals adhesive back sequins would look nice on this as well. Let's go ahead and use the dots, though. We'll just put a bunch of them on here. And they come in 3 sizes. let's go ahead and use all 3 sizes here. I had an event yesterday, so I haven't unpacked and gotten my take your pick tool out. Where do I want this? I don't want that one there. I do want it to show up. Choices, choices. I'm going to put a big one right down here. Put that one right there. So I've got my little triangle going on, and there is my card. Just a simple thank you note inside. And of course, if we want to have a nice little leaf inside, we can bring back, and now here's where I'm going to just wipe this off a little bit better. I want to add on a little maple leaf there. I just wipe around that. And set my stencil right here. Take my Cajun craze again. That's crushed curry. Here is my Cajun craze. We're just gonna daub that in there. And there we have a little leaf. Now if you get a little bit, little too zealous there, we can go ahead and bring in another leaf. And just be careful that we're not getting other leaves that we're not supposed to on here. I wasn't careful the first time. That's all right, just gives me some creative opportunity. And of course, odd numbers really aren't great to have. So we'll bring in this last one and bring in our green back. So there's still plenty of ink left on my dauber. There we go. Got some falling leaves down there in the corner. And that is just a pretty simple fall card. All right, if you have watched me for any length of time, you know I love snow. Many people are not fond of winter, but I am, especially when we have lots of snow. I'm hoping we get lots of snow this year. Seems like we might, because it's supposed to be warmer because of El Nino. So maybe we'll get dumped on this year. I know some of you are probably turning me off right now because you refuse to listen to that. Sorry, not sorry. I'm beginning with a piece of Night of Navy cardstock, and I'm bringing in the mask that has the snowflakes on it. Position it exactly where I want it. And we're going to use some tape to secure down those corners. You know, I might even go a little bit heavier on the tape because I really want to make sure that it stays down. Maybe let's do this. Okay, I'm bringing in my shimmery white embossing paste. This had dried up on me quite a bit a while back, and so I read that you could add a little bit of water and let it sit, and it would rejuvenate. And that is the case, although I think I added a little bit too much water. However, I'm sure it'll dry. I'm going to pick some up with my palette knife. I'm going to just make a thin layer. Now, it is really important that as soon as you are done with this, you clean your mask and you clean your palette knife. Otherwise, you're going to find that the paste stuck and dried and made a really big mess. Now, I assume that because I can rejuvenate the paste with water, I could just let things soak, and eventually I'd be able to get things off there too. But it's much easier if you do it when it is wet. You really want a very thin layer for a couple reasons. If it's very thick, you know, you may have a little bit of trouble mailing it. And also, it just takes longer to dry if it's too thick. You can see here's a little clump that did not rejuvenate itself, so I'll just take that away. Keep spreading it out. I think, at least I can see some of the sparkle. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. All right, it looks like a pretty good coating. Looks fairly even. Put the excess back in the jar. Close it up tight. At the very least, I'm going to bring in a paper towel to wipe this off. And then I'll go to the sink and clean it. Notice that I'm removing all the tape before I try to lift up the mask. I think that gives me the best chance of not smudging anything. There's all my tape off. Just carefully peel this back. And look at, we have beautiful white snowflakes. I'm removing it from my background here because there were some snowflakes, I don't know if you can see, that went off my sheet. I was just afraid that if it hardened, it would be harder to take it off afterward. We're gonna just take off that tape, set this aside, and let it dry. Okay, 10-15 minutes later, it's all dry and ready to be worked with. I am going to set it down right now and bring out my Berry Cute set. I love these little polar bears. Baby Bear is so cute. And this is so clearly the Coca-Cola bear. But I'm going to be using this one because this one has a coordinating punch. And let's set this aside for just a second. I'll also be using the Warm Wishes. Bring in my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And a piece of Balmy Blue, which goes so nicely with the navy, white, navy, and Balmy Blue. Really pretty winter combination. And let's use something I haven't used yet. I'm using the Countryside Corners dies. And this is the second one that's shaped like this from the smallest. It's got a flat edge, so I'm going to put it in a little bit crooked here, just so a hard edge doesn't go through. And because my polar bears are photopolymer stamps, I can die cut first. See right where I'm going to be stamping. I've got my Warm Wishes already mounted. Let's bring in the Night of Navy ink. We'll stamp this right on the left edge here. Here we go. Now, I'll leave my ink open because we need to stamp our polar bear. I'm going to get a scrap piece of white out. Here's my polar bear. Just keeping everything monochromatic, so in the blue color family. The navy is a pretty deep blue anyway. Punch out my bear. We're going to be doing something like this. Now I do want, I think I want to bring in some of this glittered organdy ribbon. Kind of has the same feel as those snowflakes. We will wrap it around this bottom piece here, and I think I'll do a knot instead of a bow. Generally, if you want to cut it first, when you're doing a knot, 3 lengths of ribbon is good. Here's how I tie a pretty flat bow. Left over right, and then you have your ends going in opposite directions, north and south. Put my finger there, pull over the top, and pinch it in here between my fingers, and then I wrap this over and through. And then I just pull this, and it's a very nice, tidy little knot. I can adjust this around here. I can put my bow wherever I need, my knot wherever I need it to go. Let me just play here and see where we want it. Definitely need to move it over, so I just put my hands on the front and the back, and I just kind of scoot it around like that. Let's push it up a little bit here. There we go. And if I put that there, and my little bear here, he's still off to the side a little bit. So now this, remember, this is going to go on a card base. So it's okay if he does stick over a little bit, but I think just like that, right? Let me trim this a little bit more. Let's use our dimensionals. Ooh, a fresh sheet. All right, let's take all these pieces off. That right there. Now, my bear is going to come over here like this. I don't want to put a dimensional here because then he will be a little lopsided, because a dimensional here, this is already lifted off. I'm really just going to put some dimensionals on the rear side of him. And he'll be stuck down enough, but if you want a little extra security, just take your glue and put it just a little bit on here, and we'll glue him to that Balmy Blue label. There we go. Now we just need to add him to a card base. Let's bring in this card base, just a standard card base. This ribbon is pretty thin, so it's going to be okay for me just to glue this on. Sometimes if the ribbon has a little bit more thickness to it, I like to put that base up on dimensionals, but this is really very thin. So there we go. Color on color is a little bit hard to see when you're mounting it. Here we go. Isn't that a cute little card? Let's see if I do say so myself. I'm going to bring my stencil back in, and I have just a little piece of basic white. Let's bring in a blending brush and my Balmy Blue. We're going to touch this a little bit on a piece of scrap paper that I don't have. Here we go. And then just really lightly add some snowflakes to this. Doesn't have to be much. Just want a subtle background here. Very, very subtle. We could do the same thing to our envelope. And just glue it inside of the card. Now, if you are looking in your catalog for this glittered white organdy, you're not going to find it. It is an online exclusive item. It used to be in a catalog and they moved it to the online exclusives. And it is just such pretty, pretty ribbon. I hope it stays in the online exclusives for a long time. But isn't that pretty? Thank you again for joining me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed these projects. I simply love these Abundant Beauty Decorative Masks, and they are so much more versatile and more fun to play with than I had originally imagined. Because I originally imagined they were just, okay. But then I saw one project, Stella's project, and then I thought, oh, that's pretty nice. And then one of my team members said, I really like the snowflakes in that mask set, which I hadn't even noticed yet. And so then that got me even going further. So I really do love them and envision seeing lots more projects in my future using them. And I hope you feel the same about them. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And as a reminder, free shipping ends tomorrow, Wednesday, October 11th. And if you want the class kit, you can place your order anytime between now and October 25th using that link that is in the description of this video. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.